Welcome to Faith on the Field Show. I'm Rob Motti with my beautiful wife, the birthday girl. This is Remy, and we are recording on her actual birthday. So she's back this week. Last week, Alexia did a phenomenal job filling in for you. Glad you feel better.
About 85% better. Yes.
Well, you did a great job in just helping her, Melina, everything along the way, because she just stepped in here and she was ready to go. And it was like last minute because you were about to record. But fantastic job out of Alexia. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Our guest this week is going to be Dave Canales. He is the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. They lost in the first round of the playoffs last week. It was his second season as head coach in Carolina. This is also, just like last week, my conversation with John Harbaugh was before the season. This was a conversation with Dave Canales last year, but I thought it was pertinent, especially now that we're on Faith Points TV. Haven't had an opportunity to bring some of these conversations to you for those of you who are watching us. So for those of you who are still listening to us on all across the radio stations, whether it's the ESPN, Fox Sports, The Shepherd, wherever you're listening to us, or if you're listening to the podcast, check us out every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Central, 10:30 p.m., and also 9:30 p.m. Central. We are on Faith Points TV. You could download it and watch on Apple, Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV. You got all those? Do we know how to figure all of those out? I'm still learning. I'm still learning all that technology. That's what the kids are for. So make sure you check us out on TV. But it's an interesting conversation with Dave, and we'll give you parts of it. But there's a particular comment, or it's something that happened in his relationship with his wife over the course, and they've now been married, I believe, 19 or 20 years. Wow. So he talked about the first 9 years of his marriage, and then the second half, the second 9. At that point, it was like 18. So in the first 9 years of his marriage, and his wife Lizzie, like you could tell when he was introduced as head coach, he thanked his family, thanked everybody, and when he went to thank his wife, he got really emotional. And I brought that up in the conversation, and you'll hear it later. And he told me about how there was a point in their relationship where first she told him, "You're doing a great job," as he was coaching high school. And you've got such a passion for it that I want you to go for as far as you can go. And you know how hard it is to pursue that dream of being a head coach. Like there's a lot of sacrifices as a wife that you have to make. She was working a lot so he can try and get to in front of whether it's other coaches and whoever it may be, so he can get known, he can get his name out there, he can coach. You're not getting paid a lot of money to do some of these things. And eventually he ended up at USC with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll took him to Seattle. From Seattle, he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He helped Baker Mayfield revive his career in 2023. The Carolina Panthers hired him in 2024. And in 25, this past season, he led them to an NFC South title. And they really fought hard against the LA Rams. 10-point underdogs, almost beat them last week. Almost beat the LA Rams. So it was an incredible job out of Dave. But the point was, as he's talking to her and he finally gets this first chance, this first opportunity where he's going to be an assistant coach. This is back when he was going to be an assistant coach 9, 10, 11 years ago. And he was really excited because he said to her, like, I get to pour into some of these young men. I get to show them what a Christian marriage looks like. And that's where she said to him, "Wait, you mean this marriage?" And the two of them, they've since written a book, and I believe part of the title is This Marriage, right? And it was just, your reaction was what? Ouch?
Ouch, yeah. Because sometimes you're in a marriage where you feel everything is going well, everything is great on the outside, but on the inside, it's damaged. It needs to, you need to work on it, because marriage is work. It's not easy, and you have to really put in the work every day. But it comes down to communication. It comes down to really sitting down and checking in and talking about things that you don't feel like talking about, and healing things that needs to be healed. And a lot of people don't do that. And a lot of people they just want to get over with the day. They just, let's go, finish the day.
You're busy, things are happening. Yeah.
It's not an easy task, but it does require commitment, and it does require work, and you need to do it. You need to do the work every single day. Do the work. And it's not bad work. It's just that, you actually have to work on yourself first before you work on anything else. Because if you're not willing to work on yourself and really put a mirror in front of you and just look in the mirror and say, okay, I really need to work on this stuff. Like, this is something that I affiliated myself with, or like say, I am this or I am that. Well, you're not any of that. You just inherited all these things along the way, and none of them are really true. So you need to change your perspective of things and of yourself. And if something is not working, you need to work on it. And it's hard.
The story goes even deeper beyond that. So when she goes this marriage and he takes a step back and he realizes that there's issues within the marriage, and you'll hear this coming up, but I wanted to get to it so we can talk a little bit more in depth about it. And ultimately he's driving. It leads him to a point where he feels God telling him that it's time for him to be honest with his wife. And I was shocked. Like, I'm listening to this conversation. I'm like, man, he is really being like, right now he's telling us that he was unfaithful in his relationship. He would go out and he'd be drinking. He'd be doing all these different things. And ultimately he said, I went to her, I was honest, and I let her know, not knowing whether she's going to accept me, forgive me, or tell me I want a divorce and I'm moving on. And fortunately, they were able to work things out in their relationship, and I'll let you hear from him. But what he talks about is being a different person at home and then a different person when he's out with his friends. He was a Christian in the home, but outside he wasn't wearing his wedding ring. He was doing his thing. He was obviously unfaithful. He was drinking, all of this stuff. And it leads me to this question of, or this conversation about, or the point that I really kind of want to make is, we can't be a different person in front of different people. Because if we want to walk with the Lord, our walk with the Lord has to be evident in our relationship, on the field, if you're an athlete, if you're a coach, wherever you may be, in the workplace, in school, wherever you go. If you're walking with the Lord and you are truly aligned with Him and His mission for you, you can't really live two separate lives or be a different person. And sometimes that's not easy because of expectations societally, sometimes because of influences, whether it's at work or wherever it may be, and you kind of put your Christianity on the back burner. But then when you have to make a tough decision and your morals come into play, your character, whatever, you got to stand up at that moment. But if everybody knows all along that, hey, this is a strong man or a strong woman of faith, and this is who she is, and this is what she stands for, maybe those questions won't come about. But just tell me a little bit about being the same person to you. What does that mean to you to be the same person? Because you have to deal with this all the time too, whether you're in a mommy group or whether you're in a work setting, whether you're showing a home or selling a home or whatever you're doing. Like, you have to be you all the time, 100%.
Right. I feel like there's a lot of people identifying at different things, right? If you identify as a Christian, right? Two sides.
Leave it there.
I'm going to leave it at that. Two sides of the coin should be the same, okay? You cannot be one side of the coin here and the next side of the coin there. You just have to be, the two sides have to completely be the same when you're decided to follow Christ. Not just be a Christian, but you have to follow Christ. So there's a big difference. You can identify as a Christian, right? But you can just the next day, you're following something else. You're following trends, you're following your passions, you're following your desires, you're following whatever it is that you want to follow. But when you decide to follow Christ, it is a hard and narrow road that is not fun. Okay, we're not, but we're not saying as in like not fun,
but it's rewarding, right? It's ultimately rewarding, but
yeah, every single day you're gonna find challenges in your character. You're gonna find challenges when it comes to being like to fit in, someone that wants to fit in, you're not going to fit in because it's hard to fit in. It really is hard to fit in with the cool peeps out there when you're trying to be a real follower of Christ. You're not going to be the most popular person among the cool peeps, and that's okay. You have to every single day make that choice and make that commitment to Christ, because if I'm popular with Christ, guess what? I'm a pretty happy lady. I am fine because the King of Kings called me his daughter, so I am really proud of that, and I'm happy about that. I'm okay with being popular with him and not with people. So you're gonna lose people, you're gonna lose friendships, you're gonna lose jobs, you're gonna lose money and whatever it is. And that's okay, because the reward in the end is worth it. And that's just who I am. It's a character thing. And my character is the same here and there and everywhere. You're not going to find misconceptions, and you're not going to find misalignments, because I'm just committed. And that it takes commitment. It doesn't take just, I just decided
and it's
today.
not easy.
Like,
It's tough, because sometimes
Yeah.
it's just you're in an environment that makes it more difficult for you, or more difficult on you. But what does the Bible say? What does Paul write about trying to please? If you're living your life to please man, or you're living your life to please God? Because if you're living life to please man, you're always going to be disappointed. You're always going to end up in a situation where you can't live up to other people's expectations, and people are going to love you and people are going to hate you. But if you live your life simply to please the Lord and let everything else fall into place, that's where true peace really comes in for me.
And it might not be fun as in popular with the crowds, but it is peaceful, and you will find the peace of Christ, which obviously the most amazing thing ever, because peace in your home, peace in your heart, peace with people around you is the most perfect thing ever. And I would rather have that than anything else.
Well said. Up next, you're going to hear from Dave Canales. You're watching Faith on the Field Show. Welcome back to Faith on the Field Show. I'm Rob Motti with my beautiful wife, Remy. If you're watching us or listening to us for the first time, check us out on faithonthefieldShow.com. You can find every episode on podcast form too as well, since we launched way back in 2017. If you would like to partner with us and help our ministry grow, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Reach out to us. So many ways that you can get involved. Super Bowl's coming up. We'll be there. We'll have a presence. All kinds of great things. Team at faithonthefieldShow.com. Our guest is Dave Canales. He is the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Here is my conversation with Dave from 2024. Welcome to the show. Appreciate your time. And this is a really exciting time for you in your career, and congratulations on being the head football coach for the Carolina Panthers.
Thanks, Rob.
Tell me a little bit about your journey to getting to this point. I know how exciting it must have been, but there's a lot that goes into it. You spent a lot of time in Seattle. You spent a year in Tampa Bay, and now you get this amazing opportunity in Carolina. I'm sure it's sort of a culmination, right, of a dream come true.
It really is, and I got this picture back here I want to show you, just talking about the journey. Kind of started right here.
Wow.
And this is Carson High School, 2004. I'm the junior varsity head coach. That's me in the baggy khakis right there, with the too long of a haircut. But it all started there. And I came out of Azusa Pacific University with the heart to just give back to my community, to where I'm from, Carson, California. And started working at the church, had dreams to open up a gym. My dream was to become like, some of the training facilities that prep players for the draft, combine, and off-season workout types. That was my dream. Okay. So at my dad's church, he had a youth center that was about 20,000 square feet, and I was like, oh, this is where we're going to do it, right here. And so I started training players, while the players' parents told on me to the local high school coach. He roped me in to being the head coach for the JV team. And I was hooked. It was like the first game against Venice High School. We lost 34-13. It was the greatest day of my life. It was like I had found it, and after 2 years of that, my fiance who became my wife, Lizzie, um, she said, "You're really good at this. You love it. They respond to you. Your football teams are good. Like, if you want to pursue this like long term, I got your back. Like, we'll do whatever we need to do, whatever it takes to make it happen." And she did. She worked 3, 4 jobs at a time, um, and just kind of did whatever she could do so that I can go and be exposed to all the best coaches, college coaches around the country to learn, to network, to do all that. And then, by the grace of God, we ended up getting hired at USC after 3 years at the junior college level. So, um, it just happened all in our backyard, really for the first 6 years of my coaching career. And that's where I met Pete. And then Pete took me to Seattle. And then, the last two jumps kind of brought us to here.
I know how important Lizzie is to you. Obviously, we saw at the news conference, you kind of got a little bit emotional talking about her and saying how instrumental she was in this journey for you along the way. You guys have been together a long time. You have 4 children. How much does it take in that relationship to be able, as you said, to do what you need to do? Because you got to this point, but now the life of an NFL head coach, you're in the office, you're going to be there a lot. You got a lot on your plate. So how much does it, that relationship, to be as strong as it is, how important is that?
I think it's super critical because, really this goes back to the story of my testimony
Mhm.
and what our marriage became. So for the first 9 years, that covers like high school, junior college, USC, and the first 5 years in Seattle.
Mhm.
And I was not I was not the same person everywhere I went. I was I was partying, I was drinking way too much. I was doing all this other stuff when I was away from home. And
Mm.
then when I would come home, we'd go to church, talk about the Lord, say all the right things, had the right group of friends, etc. So like I was completely torn in two
Wow.
and really didn't know who I was. Um, and when I became wide receivers coach in Seattle, like this new responsibility was kind of put on my plate. And so I come home. This is after Super Bowl 49. We lost to the Patriots on the 1 yard line with the on the interception, the pick heard around the world. And
I was there. I was there.
oh man, you were.
Yes. Yeah, I was there.
Oh, what a painful moment. But
Right.
like on the eve of that, I get my big opportunity to become a receivers coach in the NFL. And so it's like a couple of weeks later, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm all excited. I'm like, I can't wait to get the players around us so they can see what a good Christian marriage looks like. And she just kind of hit me with this marriage. Like, you want them to come and see this? She's like, I believe we love each other. You're my best friend. I don't think we have a great marriage.
Wow.
I think we're just committed to each other, um and she was just like hit me between the eyes, and it was a sobering moment for me that like, okay, she's right. Like, I'm a hypocrite, and she really doesn't know the full story. And so it was at a marriage conference about a couple weeks after that where I really felt led by the Holy Spirit to tell her who I had been, the things I was doing that she didn't know about, um, the lifestyle that I was leading, and and like that was really just completely heartbreaking for her, of course, um, and really for me too, just like the vulnerability of like, I was talking about being unfaithful. I was talking about like, binge drinking in different towns and like kind of this lifestyle I was living in. So I was kind of putting at risk, like she may say, I'm done with you, you're a liar, I'm out. So I wanted to risk it all, but it was really for, you know, goes back to this moment that I had in my truck. I'm driving to work and the Lord's like, you got to give this to me. I'm not promising you outcomes. I'm not promising you you're going to have this marriage. You're going to continue in this, the way that your world is set up right now with your with your kids and your wife and the dog and the white picket fence and all that. Like, I'm not promising that's going to stay intact, but what I'm promising you is that if you give it to me and you do it the right way, that I will never leave you
Mm.
and my way will be better, but you got to trust me with it. It takes me back to Matthew 5. Um, Matthew 5:25, I think it is. But it's Jesus is telling the story. He says if you've if you're on your way to give your offering at the temple, and on your way you realize that you're not right with your neighbor, go back, settle up your dispute, then come back. And like the picture to me in that moment, because I had heard my dad preach that sermon different times, but what it meant to me was, I don't want your I don't want your ministry or what you think is going to make you look good in the NFL, in this profession, until you go and get your marriage right with your wife. And then my wife's calling me out. And so then I really felt like, to fully come into the calling that God had for me, it had to start at home. It had to start with honesty, with vulnerability, with courage to have hard conversations, and to put it on all on the line for what God has. And that's what kind of led us to that. And that was the first 9 years. April 15th will be our uh, it'll be 9 years. That's our anniversary. It'll be 9 years after. So we have nine before. Now we're nine after. And these last 9 years, just the work that the Lord has done in our lives, um, really is everything. Rob, long way to answer your question.
Mm-hmm.
It strengthens our marriage so that I could fully become the coach,
Yeah.
fully become the man, the leader. My buddy Scott tells me this all the time: lead self, lead others, lead organizations, in that order. And a lot of times we do this thing backwards in our society, in our culture. But it did when we put God first in our marriage, put God first in my life. That's leading self through Christ, which then prepped me to lead others and disciple coworkers, players, which then puts me in a position to lead organizations. So that inside out work.
Having that foundation, Dave, of your dad being a pastor, your grandpa being a pastor, how much did that, at least you had that foundation, so when you veered off the path, right, you still, there was something inside you. You knew what was right. You knew what you had to do, but then it took your wife making that comment to you. But how much did that foundation help you in giving you what you needed to be able to be grounded, to be centered, and say, this is where I want to be. This is who I need to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm living the dream of a illegal immigrant to Bakersfield, California. At the age of 12, and his brother was 14. They left with their mom and landed in Bakersfield and worked the fields. And he found the Lord in his 20s, like 26 or 27 years old, found the Lord, and then had a vision and a dream for his family. He didn't even have a family, but he said, if we're going to do this right in this new country, in this place, we're going to put Jesus at the center of it. And that was my grandpa, Miguel Canales. That was his dream for his family, was we put the Lord first and we go and serve his people. And so that dream has come to fruition, and in myself, my older brother who took the church who took the church over from my dad, my younger brother who's a dean of students at Azusa Pacific University, a Christian university. Like, all of us have our different angle to serve God's people, to have a vehicle, to have a format, to be able to live out really a ministry life, really like a missionally focused life. So the foundation was huge. But then to have my wife who's courageous to challenge me to grow in ways that I didn't quite see each generation grow towards, she comes into it and then just really like pours gas on this fire, that the Lord started a long time ago.
I think it's so important to be able to have those people who hold us accountable. And
Yeah.
ministry can look so different in so many different. I was at a point in my life 6 or 7 years ago where I thought I had to do full-time ministry and leave
Mhm.
what I'm doing. But then through a pastor friend of mine, he said, no, no, Rob, take Jesus to your marketplace. And that's how this show came about. So you have a brother, you have family who are in different forms of ministry. How do you, as a football coach, as someone in the NFL,
minister to others, to those around you? How do you do that? Take Jesus to your marketplace.
Yeah, I just first and foremost just watch his example, right? Village to village, what is the greatest need that this place has? Number one, it's salvation. We know that. But then what are the practical needs of this place? There's healing. They got leprosy, or there's this blindness that's being caused, or there's like a spiritual oppression. And so Jesus would just come and see what is the greatest need here, and what do I have to give them? Well, he's got the ultimate healing, on all levels. And well, I don't have that, but what do I have? Well, I have hope. I have a genuine joy for life, for the possibilities that life can become. I got football, a lot of football to offer this place. A lot of personal work and introspection, leadership study, and all that stuff, all the things that kind of pour into this position, like I can give that to this place. Some missionary friends of my parents that would come and visit every couple of years to raise funds to go back to Nicaragua or to Colombia, where they would do their missions work. They were in between services speaking to the congregation to raise money. And they were resting in my dad's office. And the wife, I can't remember her name, but I sat there with them, and I've known them my whole life. But I just said, what does it look like, being a missionary, like on a day to day, like, and she said, it's probably not what you think. We're not standing on corners, preaching out of bullhorns. And in fact, a lot of places you'll get killed for that. Because they see it as anti-government.
Yeah.
And she says, it's really not what you think, probably. It's like, we're not out there preaching all the time. She said, where they don't have dentists, we pull teeth. Where they don't have water, we dig wells. Where they don't have clothes and shoes, we do clothing drives from the States, get it shipped here, and we distribute it in a responsible way, because otherwise they'll take it. So we got to protect the stuff. We feed, we watch kids because both parents work and the kids just walk around the town. We give them schooling because they don't have schools. And I said, wow, that's Jesus. But the light bulb went on for me. I said, okay, so for me, this being my mission field, what I can do is I can help Baker Mayfield get his footwork right, help him see coverages clean, help him have the right leadership messaging to the group. I can help Bryce Young, take the next step in his career, teach him how to be a professional quarterback. I can bring the tools that I have. Any of the guys that are getting married or in relationship, I can be an open book to them for what it looks like to have a struggling marriage, fractured marriage, really on the rocks, to a thriving marriage, and what that took, what it looked like. So I can bring all those things wherever I'm at, and offer them and follow Jesus' examples, follow these missionaries' examples, in a practical way.
That's it for this week. Thank you for watching and listening to Faith on the Field show. Thank you to Dave Canales. Thank you to my beautiful wife, Remy, the girls, and all of you. Until next week, I'm Rob Motti, reminding you, make a difference. Be a blessing.